Let's make an interactive PDF form. I have my catalog file open from the exercise folder, and I'm going to go to page 13. So I'll go to the Layout menu, choose Go to Page, type 13, and then click Enter. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the top part of this page. I'll do the Command spacebar click trick and drag over part of this page. Now, InDesign lets you create form objects right on the page in InDesign, and I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite features in InDesign. To add a form field, I need to open the Buttons and Forms panel, and because I have my Interactive for PDF workspace open, I can do that simply by clicking on Buttons and Forms in the dock. Now I need an object on my page that I'm going to turn into the form field. To do that, I'm going to use the Graphic Frame tool. It could be some other kind of frame tool, but this is kind of easy. So I'll grab that and then come over here and drag out a rectangle on my page. This is where I want the first name to be typed. So while that object is selected, I can turn it into a button by clicking on the Convert to Button button at the bottom of the Buttons and Forms panel. Form fields have to be buttons. But now I'm going to go to the Type pop-up menu at the top of the panel and change this from button to text field. Now I'll give it a name. I'll simply select that text and replace it with first name. It's always good to give it a name that you'll recognize later. Now, I could add actions if I want, but in this case, that's all I really want to do. I just want someone to be able to type their name here. Next, I'm going to choose the Selection tool from the Tool panel, and then I'm going to hold down the Option and Shift key, or Alt-Shift on Windows, and drag this new field over to the right. As you know, that's just a convenient way to copy the object. Now that I have my duplicate, I'm going to come over here and change the name of this one to last name. I could go on from here. I could Option drag this object down to the address, and then extend this a little bit by dragging its side handle, and then I'll change its name to address in the Buttons and Forms field. Then I'd have to go on and do these others, but I'm just going to jump forward, and I'm going to add some other form fields. Let's scroll over here, and now let's make radio buttons here for male and female. I'll go back to my Frame tool, and now I'm going to drag out a box. I'm holding down the Shift key to keep it a square. Now, I'll turn that into a button, and then set the type from button to a radio button. It's a little off-center, so to position it, I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'll just press the arrow keys to position it precisely. Now let's give it a name. I'll call this Gender. And now I'm going to duplicate this over the Female field. I need my Selection tool, and then Option-Shift-Drag. Then I'll use the left arrow here to just tap it into place. Great. Now, radio buttons are set up so that only one could be selected at a time. But to start with, I don't want either of these to be selected. So I'm going to choose each of these and set the normal to off in the Appearance section. Now I'll click the male one and set that to normal off as well. This way, when I first open the PDF, neither of them will be selected, and the user can click on one or the other. The last thing I need to do to these radio buttons is to give them a value. That's down here at the bottom of the panel. This one is going to be called Male, and this one will be Female. Simply select it and insert a value here. All right, let's do a couple more. How about a checkbox? I'll scroll over here, and I want to add checkboxes here. But this time, instead of drawing frames, I'm going to go to the Window menu and choose Sample Buttons and Forms. That always shows up when you're in the Interactive for PDF workspace. And these are great because you can use them, edit them, whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and drag this first one out of the panel here and onto my page. Then I'll close this library and resize this, because that's obviously way too big. I'll simply hold down the Command and Shift key and drag one of these corner handles, just like scaling a graphic. And now I'm going to drag it into position on top of this square. Now look over here in the Buttons and Forms panel. We can see that the normal state is on, but we don't want it on, we want it off. So I'll click on Normal Off. You'll see the checkbox disappear on the page. It's still there, but it'll only turn on in the PDF when somebody clicks on that box. Let's go ahead and give this a name, too. I'll change the name to Character 1. You can call it anything you want, of course. Now I'll duplicate this by using my Option-Shift or Alt-Shift-Drag trick. And because the first one ended with 1, the Buttons and Forms panel automatically changed the name to 2. Now, obviously, I'd have to go through and add checkboxes to all of these items, but the last thing I'm going to do right now is add a signature field. To do that, I'm going to close my Buttons and Forms panel and click down here at the bottom of the scroll bar just to move down to the bottom of my page. That's a little bit too far. Here we go. There's my signature section. Okay, once again, I'm going to grab my graphic frame tool, drag out a frame, come back to buttons and forms, and this time when I convert it to a button, I'm going to change the type to a signature field. In this case, that's all I need to do. All right, let's export this PDF file. I'll go to the File menu, choose Export, make sure the format is set to Adobe PDF Interactive because form fields only work with the Adobe PDF Interactive setting. Then I'll click Save. I'm going to use all the same interactive PDF settings that I used in the last movie, but this time I'm only going to export page 13. That'll save some time. Then I click OK. InDesign exports my one-page PDF and opens it in Acrobat. Now check out this interactive form. Let's zoom in by pressing Command-2 or Control-2 on Windows, and now I can click on my first name field and type my name. Then I'll hit Tab to jump to the last name and type that. I've got radio buttons here, and only one will be selected at a time. And now I've got checkboxes, and I can turn on 2 or more of those. If you've ever had to make forms using Acrobat's own form tools, you know that it can be a real hassle, especially if you later need to go back and fix typos or make edits in your original InDesign document. Now you can avoid the hassle. Do it all in InDesign. That's what a page layout program is for.